The Ring of Honor Women's Championship Tournament continues, and the Prodigy Rok-C has reached the semifinals. She is one step, a 3-count away from the finals, which are September 12th at Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor 18 at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia. To get there, an experienced Angelina Love is in her way. Ring of Honor TV, the weekend of September 4th, is when we will find out who is in the finals. Rok-C, thank you. Tell us so much. Thank you so much. Tell us about this tournament and being part of it.
It's so amazing, honestly. I started wrestling. Well, I started training when I was 13, and I'm 19 now, which is why they call me the Prodigy. But it's really crazy to be even like a part of Ring of Honor at my age right now. I received the first ticket to gold in the tournament. I was the first match to kind of bring back the women's division. And now I'm going to the semifinals. It's all like, I don't know, it's really crazy to me.
What is that like, that you were able to be a part of that whole process? And how was it just dealing with all that for you?
Honestly, it's been a lot of fun. Like I said, I never expected, like I never saw myself in Ring of Honor, but I love it there. Everybody's so nice. Maria is amazing. I used to watch her on TV, so it's pretty cool to be able to work with her, and she's so great. And I think also having like a woman to kind of run the division, because I mean most of the time it was like a male in power. So I think it's really cool to have Maria there.
Is this the first time that you're involved with a company then that has a woman as one of the figures, one of the leaders?
Yes, actually, yes.
What does that say for just how this whole process of not only women's wrestling in front of the camera, but now behind the scenes? Mickie James just ran this huge NWA show, which was awesome, all-women's show. You mentioned Maria and what she's doing with Ring of Honor. What does that mean to you?
I remember being very little and watching WWE, and all the women got maybe like 2-3 minutes of TV time. And then I wasn't watching at the time, but I know they had like bra and panties matches and stuff like that. And you saw like so many male wrestlers. Like me growing up, I saw so many male wrestlers, and they all looked so different. And now that's that for women. You're not seeing them. They're not like commodity matches anymore. Like it's a woman's show, like NWA in Power. I thought that was so awesome. Like it's so crazy to see that now, just because I feel like women's wrestling has come such a long way, and now like right now is I think the best time for women's wrestling.
When you were training, what was that like? And were there other women training?
When I first started training at 13, I was actually a backyarder for a little bit, so I was training in a backyard, and both of my trainers were males, and I don't think there wasn't another girl training with me, and I was even like I was training with guys, and then I was having matches with guys too, just because at the time there was not really a lot of women's wrestlers, and then especially in my area there was like no women's wrestlers. So I think once I started training at Booker T School in Houston is when Hyon was there, Rachel Rose, they're independent wrestlers right now. But yeah, not until I kind of went more up north is when I started being able to train with girls.
What was it like getting that training at such a young age, and even telling your family at that young age that I'm going to start training and this is what I want to do?
Well, I've known that I wanted to be a wrestler since I was like 10 years old. And my parents knew that because I was always talking about how I said I'm going to be a wrestler by night and a vet by day. The vet part didn't end up happening, but the wrestler part did. But they've always been very supportive. I remember being very young, and I was actually looking up wrestling schools on like my family's computer, and I found Booker T School in Houston, and I was maybe like in middle school at the time. And I told my parents, I called them over and I was like, when I turn 18, I'm gonna move out of Laredo and move to Houston and start my training at Booker T School. And they were like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, if that's what you want, then okay, we'll do that. And then I ended up training earlier than expected. And I debuted for Booker T when I was like 16 on his show. Um, so yeah, that honestly that wouldn't have been possible without my parents.
Was it a process to get respect, especially at such a young age when you're 13, 14 years old training? That's unheard of.
Yeah. So now you kind of see more like younger girls coming into the business. But for me, I think like um, sorry. I saw Paige and I heard her story, and she started training when she was like 14, and that kind of inspired me. I was like, oh, she started training really young. I can do that. Um, and so I did that, and yeah, it was pretty tough because I think like my trainers were very good on. Um, they always like showed me the same respect that they showed like every other guy that was training in there, and they didn't see me different, and they made sure to tell the trainees like, hey, just because she's a girl doesn't make her any different. Like everybody treat her the same. um, but yeah, I had my first match at like 14. um, I definitely did not get a lot of bookings at 14, 15. But yeah, I think I had like a couple of like dark matches that were canceled. Like I remember one time my whole family had came to see me, and then it was a dark match, and they ended up canceling that, and it was just like a local wrestling show. So that kind of sucked a little bit. But I don't think it ever really like got me down too much. It kind of just lit a fire in me to kind of, okay, I'll just prove everybody wrong. Like regardless of my age, I still have the same dedication and passion as anybody else in this business.
When you got the name The Prodigy, how did you feel about getting that name and living up to that name?
It was actually at one of Booker T's wrestling shows, and uh, there I'm kind of like homegrown from there, so I was known as like the 17-year-old sensation, and then the 18-year-old sensation, and I was like, how long is this gonna go on? And then I kind of had a hard time because I was just like, oh, I wonder like am I just gonna keep being a sensation? Like what am I gonna do? And then there was this one match that I had where the fans started. I couldn't exactly hear what they were chanting, uh, but I went to the back and they were like, "Oh yeah, they were chanting Prodigy," and I was like, "What?" And then I was kind of like, "Okay, like the fans see me as a prodigy. That works," and it just stuck.
In the Ring of Honor tournament, this women's championship tournament, you've beaten Sumie and also Quinn to get to the semifinals. What were those matches like for you?
The match with Sumi was honestly that was probably no, that's definitely the biggest match of my career. Um, just because Sumi's like so sorry. Sumi's a huge Ring of Honor legend. She was the first Ring of Honor Women's Champion um, when it was Women of Honor, and uh, she's just been so many places. She's wrestled in Japan for a very long time, and for me to be put into that position was very nerve wracking. But I also feel like on the independent scene, a lot of people like that were kind of thrown at me, and I kind of had to just like okay, like kind of think on my feet, and I had to do that with Sumi as well, and it ended up working out, which is really crazy. Because honestly, um, I think I've said it before, but like the fans tend to kind of believe in me a little more than I had tended to believe in myself. And I think like matches like that, like with Sumi, that kind of really um, made me think like, wait, like I gotta be a little bit more confident in myself. Like I just beat Sumie Sakai.
Now Angelina Love is next. What is it like having a match with her? Getting ready for a match like that?
I think it kind of puts me in the same position as when I wrestled Sumie, just because the same. Angelina Love is a 7-time world champion, and the thing with Angelina Love is that it's kind of like a harder position just because she isn't in the Allure, and I've seen and watched the Allure, and they don't tend to be very they don't tend to play fair. So that's kind of what I'm worried about the most. I feel like going into this match, but I got it.
On the other side of the bracket is Trish Adora against the Lucha Baddie, Miranda Alizé. What do you know about them? I know Miranda and you have teamed up, and I guess we can get into that and also have background together. But tell us a little about those two and what your thoughts are, those two. When or if you get by Angelina Love having to face one of those two in the finals.
I think they're both pretty awesome. Trish Adora, I've never wrestled her. I think I saw her maybe like once or twice. Like watched her matches on the independent scene, and then I saw her during the tournament, and I was like, wow, she's really good. Yeah, so I've never wrestled her, so I think that'd be a really, really like good first matchup. Miranda, I've actually wrestled her, I think, twice on the independent scene, and we're actually trained by the same people, Booker T and Daga, but just like we never actually like met as we were training, if that makes sense. We never trained together. Um, but I think, I mean, like obviously we kind of picked up the same knowledge. So if we wrestled, I feel like, you know, but we also teamed up. So I feel like me wrestling her already, um, teaming up with her, um, being trained under the same people, it kind of, I don't know, I feel like I kind of know a lot of what she does in the ring. And I don't know, maybe that'd be, I feel like if I had to choose between Trish and Miranda, I might have to go with Miranda just because of those reasons.
Well, if it does happen, whether it be in the tournament or whatever, she likes to wear the mask and then the mask comes off. I'm wondering when you all tag team, was that ever something that you thought of putting the mask on and taking it off just when you two tag team?
I don't know. I think she could keep the Lucha Baddie stuff. I'm not really much of a Lucha Baddie.
And also, how did you get your name, your wrestling name?
Uh, so it's a funny story. I actually came up well, me and my mom came up with that name when I was like at like 10, 11 years old. I swear to you, like ever since I started watching wrestling, like the rest of my life has been dedicated to like becoming a wrestler, which is pretty crazy to me. Like when I think about it, because like most of my childhood was dedicated to like making my dream come true of becoming a professional wrestler, and I would like draw out gear. I would like practice signatures, and then me and my mom ended up coming up with the name Rok-C. I'm a very big fan of The Rock, and he was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up. So we kind of like used that a little bit. I honestly didn't really expect to use it, but I remember before my first match, my trainer was like, "Hey, you need to come up with like, you need to look for a theme song. You need to come up with gear and a name." And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, I didn't have a lot of time, and I was like, "Oh, well, I have a name, Rok-C." And then to this day, um, but yeah, it was funny because I think it was August 22nd actually. A Facebook memory popped up on my mom's timeline, and it was from 2011, I believe, and she had posted about, oh, like my daughter is so cute. We just came up with a wrestling name, and she was talking about that, and I thought it was so crazy because I was like, wow, like now I'm seeing my name on like the Ring of Honor Titatron, and that's full circle.
You mentioned The Rock. Earlier you mentioned Paige. So I'm curious, did you see the movie?
I did. I love that movie.
That must have been something when that was coming out, and you're like, oh, this is so cool. The Rock is producing it, in charge of it, etc. And it's about Paige and her life. That must have been like, okay, that's it. Whenever it comes out or whenever I can see it, I'm going to go see it.
Yeah, for sure. I saw it right away. That's a really, really good movie. And I can like relate to Paige's story a lot just because, like I said, like she inspired me a lot just because she started really young. So yeah, that movie was great.
And you mentioned your mom. And what is it like for your family when now they're able to see you on TV, whether it's Ring of Honor TV or anything else you're doing, but especially Ring of Honor TV?
They are so ecstatic, like they are so happy. My two uncles, they watched wrestling. One of my uncles is a little bit more of a like bigger fan than my other uncle, but he still watches it like religiously to this day. But they also watched Ring of Honor a little bit like years ago, so they think it's really cool because I used to sit and watch like WWE pay-per-views and whatnot like with them, and so now that they're watching me do everything, they just they can't really believe it. But I actually had a talk with my uncle a few weeks ago, and he was actually telling me how happy he was just because him growing up, he always wanted to be a professional wrestler and he always wanted to train. That was his biggest dream. But he had a lot of heart problems, so he was never actually able to do so. And so just hearing him tell me that it kind of just like inspires me a little bit more just to like I don't know, kind of make him proud and kind of uh, live out his dreams for him just because like it makes him so happy that I'm doing that. So yeah.
Well, you never knew that too?
No, he never told me
Oh,
that.
wow. Yeah, that's so interesting and all, just to see you do that. And then he decided, you know, that I want to tell him, I'm going to tell my niece that and everything. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Now, you're a Texas girl, you mentioned in Laredo.
Yes.
So I hope I'm putting on a good hat.
I'm not really too much of a football fan, but my family
Ah,
are
okay.
big Cowboy fans.
See, I didn't know too if I didn't have Texans. So there's the Texans, the Houston Texans, and then there's the Dallas Cowboys that have been around forever. And then you have all the other sports teams, whether it be the San Antonio Spurs, the Houston Astros. I didn't know if you were into any of the Texas sports teams.
Spurs. I like basketball.
And I'm just curious, for you growing up, did you play any sports?
Yeah, so um, starting in like elementary, going into like high school, I practically did like every sport you could think of. I did basketball, volleyball, I did cheerleading. I was in the soccer team my freshman year of high school. Um, what else? I did track. I did ballet too. It was actually just like I did all of these sports and extracurricular activities, and I never knew what like passion was because my older sister, she was in dance and she loved it, and my younger sister, she was in cheerleading and she loved it. But I was never like excited to go to practices for any of those sports, and I was like, I wish I could like something the way my sisters like something, and then I started training, and I was like, oh. This is passion. Wrestling is my passion.
Well, it's interesting too, because, well, I'll touch base with your sisters because you're interesting as well. But even looking up information on you, I like to get an idea of the person. And what high school did you go? I couldn't find anything. And in the Laredo area, there were like, when I pulled up the Laredo area, there were like 6 high schools, or there were a bunch of high schools that came up all in that area. I like to look at the high schools because I look to see who the most notable alums are from the high school. They actually have sections on there. So I was going to see how you stacked up against other alums from your high school. And then usually I'll say that, but I couldn't. I'm curious where you went to high school. And were there any other people sport-wise, entertainment-wise that you know of that came out of your high school?
So I went to John B. Alexander High School.
That was one of them. Yeah.
Yes. My mom actually went there too. But I can't really think of any like entertainers that came out of my class. I actually kept like my wrestling a little low key for a while, like freshman, sophomore year. I mean, I never really went out and told people like, "Hey guys, I'm a wrestler. Come to my wrestling show," which I probably should have done. I probably should have like advertised for my shows a little bit more.
You get a bigger crowd. Yeah, the promoter would
Right?
have been happy. Yeah.
But I didn't do that. In like
Did you keep
middle
it
school.
quiet just because that was something that you were just getting started in? Well, you've been doing it for a few years though, but is that why you think you kept it quiet?
So like in elementary, I was I was a pretty big tomboy. Like I was super into WWE and um, like I was more friends with like the guys because of that reason, but I was bullied by the girls because of that reason. So going into like middle school, I think my eighth grade year is when I started training. But going into like middle school and high school, I was kind of like hesitant to kind of just go out and tell people like, oh yeah, I'm a wrestler, because I was like, oh, if I was like bullied just because I was talking about wanting to be a wrestler, um, like what would happen if I was actually telling people I was training? Which, looking back at it, I wish I didn't feel that way. But yeah, like once I went into high school and I found like a small group of friends that actually were super supportive of me, and I'm still super close with them to this day. Like I was just like, you know what, I don't care anymore. People know, and then people started finding out, and a lot of people actually thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. And you could tell that too, because when you're bullied a little bit and all too, that makes you defensive. Like,
Yeah.
oh, now are they gonna make fun of me? Are they gonna test me? Are they gonna want to try to get in, duke it out with me? Who knows? So it's tough for anyone. I'm curious because you played so many different sports. Without bragging too much, were you a natural athlete? Because you have this, the prodigy tells me that you picked it up. You're picking things up quickly as far as being a prodigy. I'm wondering with other sports and even with ballet, if you were just naturally gifted, sort of coordinated in things like that.
Yeah, so my mom tells me this, and she used to tell me this, and it sounds kind of funny, but she used to tell me like this was before wrestling. But she's like, you're really good at everything, but you're not like great at anything. And that was just because like I just did everything and I just never really loved anything, so I never put like my full effort into it. So probably if I would have put my full effort into like the sports I was in, I probably could have been like really, really, really good. But yeah, not until I was in wrestling was when I was actually putting a lot of effort into it, and now I'm a prodigy. But yeah.
What has reality of wrestling meant to you?
Reality of wrestling has helped me grow so much. Uh, I I feel like I've literally grown up in front of reality wrestling, whether it be like the fans or Booker and Sharmell and all the wrestlers in the back. It's like a little family. So I think especially being really young coming into the business, that was very important for me to kind of have like Sharmell. She's like a huge like mom figure. So she's always taking care of everybody, and like I said, I think that was really important for me, especially because I was from Laredo and I was traveling to Houston at while I was in high school, and I was hopping on Greyhounds by myself and just like going. So I was just on my own. So
Was
yeah,
that scary at all?
it was. I was always like I tried to be very aware of my surroundings while I was at the stations. But I always tried to like kind of sit by like the little nice old ladies, like they'll take care of me.
Hey, did you have any interest in college?
I'm sorry?
Any interest in college?
Yeah, so I'm not going right now, but I actually took early college in high school. So I was in a dual credit program. So my junior and senior year, I was taking college classes. So I have a couple of college credits already, and then I did a semester or two after high school, and I'm taking a little break, but I'm definitely going back. I do feel like education is important.
And is there anything specifically that you want to pursue
Um, yeah.
other than pro wrestling?
So I really like writing. I've always liked writing since I could remember, and I've always wanted to write my own book too. So I don't know. I was just studying general studies at first, just because I wasn't really sure what to do. But I've really been thinking about going into either journalism or theater arts, because theater arts was a big passion of mine growing up too.
Well, I could speak to the journalism side of it. And you want to get into broadcast too, because print
Oh my
media,
god!
yeah, print media, it's such becoming a lost art. Nobody is picking up a newspaper anymore. You can write for online and for various websites and different publications like that. So the writing is still there, but it's also good to have a background and do other things as well in journalism, whether it be TV, radio, internet, podcasts, etc. So it's also journalism is so pigeonholed. It's
Mm-hmm.
just so you broaden it with broadcast journalism or communications, which
Okay.
encompasses a whole lot, which includes journalism. There you go. That's it. We'll get off of that for now. This
Thank
is
you.
your interview, so I want to a few more questions. We'll wrap this up and all. Listen, you're the prodigy, and you are so young, but you've had so many top opponents already. So many good opponents. You mentioned Sumie, and now Angelina Love is coming up. But what other opponents pop into your head when I ask you, hey, what were some of the better matches and opponents that you've had so far?
So I have to give really big credit to New Texas Pro in Texas. It's run by Kiefer Bartek, and he, that company has always been so great about just like, since I think I started wrestling for them when I was like 16, and they always believed in me like so much. They were like one of the first promotions to actually like really see something in me. And from the start, they were throwing like like really good women's wrestlers at me. And at first, it was kind of like a lot of pressure, just because I was like, oh, like I'm 16, like what am I doing wrestling? Uh, Sue Young from Impact, like
Wow.
what's going on? And after a while, it was kind of, I think, like I said earlier, I think that has helped me so much, because getting in the ring with people like Sumi, or getting in the ring with people like Angelina Love. I got in the ring with Jazz when I was 17. So, and I didn't win that match, but it just shows like, no matter who you throw at me, like that is the whole point of me being the prodigy. Like I will be able to run through anybody that you throw at me, just because I've had so much experience doing so, in like just being on my toes. But I've wrestled people like Kylie Ray, Thunder Rosa, Sue Young, Penelope Ford. Um, um, there's a lot. Deanna Prazo. Um, I'm about to wrestle Killer Kelly soon. So it's just, I know I'm missing a lot of people. But yeah, I wrestled a handful of like really, really talented women's wrestlers.
Having that experience, and then you get contacted by Ring of Honor to be a part of this tournament. Who contacted you, and who did you first contact to let them know you were selected for this huge Ring of Honor Women's Championship tournament?
So Maria actually reached out to me, which was mind blowing for me, because I was like, wait, this is not real. This is totally fake, right? But I had actually gotten contacted to do like a tryout for Ring of Honor last year, and then the pandemic hit, and so they canceled it, and I was so sad, just because like it was really tough, because everything shut down, and then wrestling was completely gone. I couldn't even go train. There was no shows happening, and then I was getting like really ready for that tryout, and then it kind of was like taken away, and then it wasn't even like we're going to have another tryout at this time, just because like the pandemic was just like nobody knew what was going to happen. But it was pretty hard. It was the first few weeks I was like, okay, like I just have to stay motivated because you never know when it could happen. But that's also hard, especially because it went on for like months and months and months. Um, but then, but then things started coming back, and then I got an email to do some Women's Division Wednesdays for Ring of Honor, and I was like, what? Because it went from like having a tryout to being on like their main event on TV. So I was like, what? Like, how did this all happen?
That is just so fun. So, and then who did you contact when you're part of the women's tournament? Who you calling or emailing or texting?
So when it happened, I called my mom right away.
I kind of figured it was going to be your mom. Even some you mentioned the memories and all those things, coming up with the name. And what was that conversation like?
She was freaking out. She actually started crying. We were both crying just because she's like, "You've worked so hard for this, and I'm so proud of you." And it's just really cool, and I feel like it's really cool to have like have my mom supporting me throughout everything, because like I said, like none of this would have been possible. I mean, it probably would have been possible like a few years down the road, but none of this would be happening right now if it wasn't for my mom, because like she was the one that tried to contact the local training facility and was like nonstop asking them, can she train now? Can she train now? And she's just like, I'm so grateful for her. She's the best mom in the world.
And you mentioned your sisters being involved in dance and cheer. So might we someday see your sisters in pro wrestling?
So I have an older sister, I have a younger sister, and then I have a younger sister, and she's about like 8 years old. And she's in the phase where she's always changing her mind about things. But I've asked her, like, would you be a wrestler? She's like, yeah, I want to be a wrestler.
That's great. All right. So we'll close it with this big Ring of Honor Women's Championship tournament. You're in the semifinals against Angelina Love on Ring of Honor TV. And then we'll hopefully get to see you in the finals at Death Before Dishonor, September 12th, FITE TV. It'll be from Philadelphia, the 2300 Arena. Recently, there was a big day, National Dog Day.
Yay!
And I'm just wondering, how big a day was that for you? And I don't know if the dog is around, if we could see the dog.
Let's see. I think he is. Go on.
Did he run away?
Oh, he's coming. I can hear him. He's about 3 months old. I actually just got him recently.
Aw.
Come here. Come here.
You got to tell us his name and just, there we go.
His name's Gohan, like from Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, he's a little baby.
Oh, and I wonder if he can see you on TV yet, and if he likes you, if like he notices you on TV or not.
He actually he'll watch TV. Like he'll look directly at the TV and just watch it, and it's funny too because my dogs back home, if I was on FaceTime with someone, let's say I was on FaceTime with my mom and trying to get my mom to say hi to the dogs, they won't look directly at the camera. They'll freak out and they'll just look away. But he looks directly at the camera. Like if someone's calling him, he'll look at the camera and start tilting his head. It's so cute.
That is great. Oh, all right. So thank you so much for the time. And do you have social media for fans?
Yes. So my Twitter is _Rok-C_. My Instagram is _Rok-C_ROKC. My pro wrestling tees is prowrestlingtees.com/TheRealRok-C, and my Facebook is The Real Rok-C.
Now we know Two Paws, Natalie's cat, has very big social media. I'm wondering if your puppy's going to have social media presence at all. Puppy's own account or anything.
A lot of people have asked me about that, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if he should have an Instagram. Right?
You don't want to exploit him right at this young age.
Right? He's not
You
old
started
enough.
young, you're doing okay, but you don't want to put your puppy through all that right now. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.